As the last date to file income tax return nears, nearly 7.4 crore entities, including individuals, have filed income tax returns so far this financial year, which is financial year 23, an increase of 6.18% from last year. Now, India's gross direct tax collection grew 20.33% to over 19.68 lakh crore in financial year 22-23. Interestingly, of the total ITRs that have been filed, about 5.16 crore declared zero tax liability. Now, the centre too has sent 1 lakh notices for non-filing of returns for those who have underreported or misinterpreted their income in ITRs. Notices, in fact, were sent where income is more than what was filed, or there is an anomaly in the income that has been filed or stated as opposed to what the income tax believe you earn as an individual. So 1 lakh notices sent so far. All of that, of course, coming on the back of the fact that the last date to file income tax is nearing. It's 31st of July. Joining me in the studio are my colleagues Amit Kumar Rajan. Also with us is the editor of English Newsverse, Rakesh Khar. Sir, thanks very much, both of you.
Shweta,
for joining us this afternoon. I want to begin by asking you, Amit, quickly run us through what these numbers are as they've been reported as of yesterday. I'm sure there's been some sort of change in these numbers since yesterday.
Yeah, that'll happen till the last date. I'll just give you a backgrounder to what is the notices that have been sent. Now, tax revenue has been constantly rising for three to 4 years, despite tax rate not being increased. Record 7.2 million income tax returns have been received in one day. So that record has been broken. Average processing time has been reduced to 16 days. All of corporate tax collection has grown 16.91%.
Okay.
Up from 10.4 lakh crores this year, up from 8.59 that was last year. Now, having said all this, indirect taxes account for 11% of the GDP in India. Direct taxes account for 6%. Most developing countries, it's the other way around. 11% is the direct taxes. Why is that? Because of the parallel economy.
Okay.
It is that parallel economy that this 100,000 reassessment notices probably aim to basically curtail. So, reassessment has been done for cases where the income of over 50 lakhs has been evaded. According to the Finance Act 2021, the reopening of old cases was reduced to 3 years from 6 years. But reassessment notices can be issued within 10 years. So that there is a grey area over there. This 100,000 notices are apart from the 55,000 cases that were reopened following the Supreme Court order, and those were concluded by May 2023. So in effect, you can say it is 1,55,000 cases that will be concluded with after these cases have been taken care of.
Okay.
So despite all the increases in tax net and everything, this is the economy that these notices probably aim to curtail.
Okay. I have a two-part question for you, Rakesh. I want to first begin by asking, of course, this is good news. The number of people filing ITRs is increasing, but from what we're looking at, most of them, majority of them, in fact, 80% of them are saying, we don't have anything to file, we don't earn enough to pay taxes. I'm not sure how true that is. Government will, of course, find out, but overall good news in terms of the numbers that we are getting so far. There's still 1 more week to go, which means that the numbers will increase.
thank you, Shweta. It feels good to be back here with you on this particular show. I think, there are many ways of looking at the tax, month, if we can call this entire month of, July, where everybody is focusing and rushing around trying to file in the returns. We must celebrate, what we call the middle class, really being the fuel engine for the Indian economy in terms of the tax revenues that finally come up. So when I say celebrate, I mean to say that, the Indian economy is being driven consistently by the Indian middle class, especially the working professionals who are, so to say, diligently paying their taxes. There can be matter of debate, which is academic, on how to expand the catchment area, where I guess the government of India and over the years has not been able to really meet up to the targets that they've set for themselves, because the tax base has to be expanded much more to really harness the investing or the earning capital of this country. But the big point is that the Indian middle class needs to be celebrated, especially the working professionals who are right at it year after year, filing their returns. We don't need to get unduly disturbed by the tax department going after the defaulters and evaders. I would imagine that that's the right thing to do, Shweta, because in a country of 1.4 billion people, it is important to have the fear of the law authorities, and if there are violators, they need to be booked. But that's a very small section when it comes to working professionals.
Right.
You can't run away from the tax dragon because you are filing tax at the source. It is part of your salary. So in that sense, those who are the violators according to the finance ministry, they have violated it on many more counts than their salaries. It's important to showcase the contribution both of the income tax department. Over the years, they brought about a lot of transparency. They brought about enforcement. They brought about, in terms of the refunds, repayments. It used to be a huge challenge, and they're moving.
Quicker.
It's
quicker. Faceless. It's faster.
Faceless. Not, I think, 100%, but they're trying to make it faceless. In that sense, 2 quick points summarizing. Celebrate the Indian working professionals who are contributing to this large chunk of the Indian revenue, which is in turn fueling the growth story of India. So if we really decode this particular chunk's contribution, which it may not be being done on a regular basis, they're at one level fueling the welfare economics template of each government at the center and at the states, respective states, and at the other level, they are fueling the India infrastructure growth story.
Absolutely.
Well, this is the money which is going to build your highways and roads and infrastructure. Yes, we need to widen the tax base, and there I would submit that there's need to also expand the catchment area and bring in rich farmers and as a taxpayer.
And increase corporate taxes.
And increase corporate taxes. Though as a student of journalism and as a taxpayer, I would say reduce taxation for the individuals. But we do know there is merit and virtue in reducing corporate tax as well, though that might not have yet resulted in the desired intention of kicking up and reigniting the India growth story. From the capex perspective.
All right. Yes, Amit seems to have a contrarian viewpoint that he...
No, not contrary. I'll just be adding to Mr. Khar. I'll just be quoting 2 little statements from the finance minister, that people gaming the system is not happening anymore. And 2, no longer is this, referring to these notices, a phishing expedition, phishing as an attack to steal your money. So she has underlined this by saying that it is no longer a phishing expedition. So it is basically within the law, and they are just basically trying to curb certain malpractices. That is all.
I don't have a map of the numbers, this 1 lakh notices, but if it's on working professionals, then I think it's a phishing expedition. If it is, when you really talk about being fair and transparent, which the intention is, then we really need to go beyond the working professional class. And we need to look at the big fish across in corporates who are registered themselves as different entities to avoid, and they have the best lawyers and chartered accountants on count to, so to say, not pay exactly the tax they're supposed to pay. And I'm all for farmers' contribution. They are the biggest contributors in terms of the employability, not as much as part of the GDP. But, when it comes to rich farmers, we do know that we have a capability to pamper them. When it comes to the middle class, unfortunately, it's not a political constituency as it is deemed to be. It should be. I do hope, and we do hope collectively, that as the Prime Minister goes to make for his 10th, Independence Day speech, there is a voice of resonance when it comes to celebrating the role of the middle class. Because it's really putting up a huge show of solidarity for both the ends. The bottom of the pyramid at one level, and also in terms of fueling the growth story.
Absolutely, in terms of fueling the growth story. And the government, they're saying, you've got nothing to fear. If you are an honest tax-paying citizen, we're not coming after you. These 100,000 notices or 1 lakh notices, 1,55,000 to be particular have been sent out to people whose incomes perhaps far exceed than what they have declared on paper. This is not everybody. This is not general people who are honestly declaring their income.
The evasion is north of 50 lakhs.
So evasion is north of 50 lakhs, which is you earn 50 lakhs and more and you say you're not earning enough to even pay taxes. That could be a problem. We will of course keep tracking. The last date, remember, is 31st of July for filing your income tax returns. We will bring you facets of how to do it, when to do it, how easy to do it, all of that in the course of next 1 week.